All right, what's up, everybody?
Hey, hey.
This is it. We're live. The music's over.
I feel like, do you have to get real loud when the music's over? Is that the thing? You have to scream?
It helps.
Every week it's different. You got to let people
It's like,
know you're live.
No!
All right, well, thank you for being here. It's office hours number 7. I'm Trae.
Another week.
This is Ben, and this is our guest, John
Hey, guys.
Garza.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did it anyway.
Oh, you got us.
I appreciate it.
So John is the owner, and you can tell us what else you do, of Branch Media. Branch is a production company in Houston, Texas, and I think they do work all over too. And I've known him for a while. He's a great person to work for. In my few experiences working for him, he's a clear communicator, and he seems like a real stand-up guy. We want to listen to him, learn from him, and hear about what he's got to say about the production and our business today.
Yeah, and we talk so much about B2B video, and now we have somebody that does it day in and day out. So it's like, I feel like we've made it there. John, this is typically the way we start is, like, we're looking for the 30-second story arc. Like, take us from, education through current in a truncated version to, like, how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Wow. Well, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for that intro, Trae. Yeah, so I'll back it up. I'll try and condense it, but much like maybe you guys, I always had a knack for storytelling, and even when I was a kid, very animated. Always wanted to be in front of people back at birthday parties, go all the way back to there. But when really started for me was actually high school. I don't know if you guys had something called Channel 1 at your high school, but we did. That dates me because that was something that came out in the early 90s. And Channel 1 was where they basically put these TVs in all the classrooms of different high schools. And there was a show that played. It was Andy. I don't know if you remember Andy. He's now on CNN. Andy Cooper was his name. He's now Anderson, but he was on it when he was
I do remember.
Closer, when he was like 20 years old. Anyway, what we did at that time was there was 2 other guys at the high school that also had like just this knack for wanting to tell stories. Well, when they came in with those TVs, we just saw an opportunity, because what they were really doing is they'd show those TVs and then they'd show advertisement to all the high school students after Channel 1 was over.
Yeah.
And so that was why they went in for free. Advertisers paid for it. So we saw how that worked, and we petitioned for a class. And it took me all of my junior year to petition for this. And I went to the school board asking saying that our school was behind in technology and blah, blah, blah. And they gave us a grant to start a TV program at the school. I helped our photography teacher start it with the other 2 guys that I knew. And my senior year, we had it. And I was hooked. After that, because I had put so much work into actually getting it done, is like it just had so much ownership in it. And so what we would do is we would go around and shoot news shows, or shoot like different stuff. We would edit it we were shooting Super VHS. I don't know if you remember that, but we would edit it and then play it back. So that's where I got hooked. I got a scholarship to go to TCU, Texas Christian in Fort Worth, which I never thought I would go to that school, but it was a scholastic scholarship and I couldn't pass it up. It was a great school. Loved it. Yeah. Loved that school. I studied radio, television, and film, which isn't even a major anymore. It's now digital media and other things like that. Came out, went into Houston. No, actually, I went to Los Angeles for a little while, and I did not like Los Angeles. For one thing, I was a young, ambitious, hardworking person that was naive and came from Texas, and they took full advantage of that. And I found myself working really, really hard as an intern everywhere and getting nowhere. And I just didn't like it there. So I came back to Texas, freelanced for a little while before I met a woman named Cynthia, and came in and I wanted a job at the production company called VTTV. They were hiring, so I interviewed with her and the owner at that time, and over 6 months before they actually hired somebody, and I came on there as a post-production coordinator, not knowing much about post. I took my knowledge from all the years of freelancing, where I'd worked up from a PA to a coordinator to a production manager, and they started seeing the opportunity to use production to feed the post, which was less overhead, and eventually was the production manager for the company, then production operations manager, and then that company went under, and I started Branch Media.
So here you are. So are you doing everything? You shoot, edit, motion graphics, all of it? You direct, DP,
No, see,
like everything?
that's the thing, because I came up that way. I came up in a time when there was production companies in Houston, large production companies. For instance, VTTV grew to 36 employees at one point in time. So we had Salesforce, we had producers, we had graphic artists, we had edit bays, we had 2 full-time audio people. It was run much like the production companies in Los Angeles. We had agencies coming in on the regular, and what they were paying at the time was, editing was like $600 an hour. Working with a graphic artist could be up to $750 an hour. But that was all put into the bid, which if there was production, it was all, you had your production bid and your post bid. So I grew up doing things differently. So I never touched the edit. I never touched the camera. What my job was to deal with the client, and to come in and understand, or sometimes someone, executive producer would have done that, and then I would be the one that would come in and almost line produce, but like come in and get it done. So I'd hire the crew, go out and do the scouting, handhold the client through production, make sure we were spending the money correctly. And it really, I'd really get into the minutia. I mean, and it's really where I found out that my aptitude for just details really came into play, because it was, when you do a production at the level that we were doing, when you're working with ad agencies, you have a lot of things to deal with. From when I would go to the scouts, I'm looking at everything. How are we getting into this building? Where's the parking? How many parking spots do we get? Who's going to approve our parking? What's the shot? Where's the, they don't want the sun here. So then, working with the AD, like, what's our schedule going to look like? Doing the call sheets, all of that, working with craft, and then managing all of that budget. I started doing that for producers, and eventually was a producer and had people doing that for me. So, it's a long process that took me to get there, but ultimately that's what I did there.
But what about now? Now, what are you still in that same thing? Like, are you bringing in?
So now and I saw this question from Trae earlier about, how has it changed? I mean, it tremendously from when I started to what I'm doing. So back then when I was doing it, doing the post and helping set those, and then obviously backing up producers, and I really cut my teeth through that. Now that I own my own production company, and what happened was, I was fortunate when that production company went under. There was a lot of clients that didn't have a production company now.
Sure.
And I had left 1 year prior to that and had kind of started building my own clientele. But then a lot of the people that I had worked with, they came to me because in a large production company, oftentimes the only person on set that actually works for the production company is the producer. Maybe the director, usually the director. But in our case, we would bring in directors, and I would be the only one on set that they actually knew. So they came to me and they said, we didn't even know all those other people. Those were like, freelancers. So now, so here I am. I have these people jumping in to my production company, which is at the time just me. And that really helped me a lot, because I just started doing what I always did. I had to learn how to run a company and how to, manage the budgets and cash flow really quickly. But I did. Because I kind of did that anyway. And I wanted to do it better too, better than I had seen it being done before. So today, I do all of it. Yeah. I do not shoot, but what I do is, for instance, I still maintain many of the agencies that I've been working with now for over 10 and in some cases 20 years, that they come to me, John, we have this thing, we need you to bid it. Some bid it out. Some of them just come directly to me. They don't even bid them out. Some of them I have agreements with that we don't, can get complicated, but some of the contractual stuff is not bid out. But yeah, so from the moment, my biggest thing at the front is to to advise on what I'm seeing, understand where their budget is, understand how to work the budget together. Looking, sometimes they'll bring me in early to look at the concept, and I can immediately look at things and say, this is going to cost more because you have so many locations, you have locations that are totally different. So I help with that. And then of course, bring in the full crew. And then I see the whole production through until delivery. And even, all the way, and I'm involved all the way until we upload the spot to be broadcast.
Yeah, John does what I do. I like this. This is
Do you,
my job.
when you're working with agencies, do you help write the scripts, or do they handle all of that
Creative
pre-production?
It depends on the agency. So some of the agencies I've known for a long time, and they will collaborate with me in a certain sense, or they'll run it by me, and some they don't. They have writers, copywriters on staff. They lock that in, get that approved, and then we're locked. But some, it's a little more loose, and we have the opportunity. Generally, where I will give the most input is once we're into the shots and looking at the shots. And as much as I have a brain that's, split down the middle, and I feel like they both run. I have a very strong right side. I want to run things. I want the meticulous. I want the perfection. I want the books to be perfect and everyone know. And then there's also this part of me that hungers for that creative side as well. So those two are often, those two sides of my brain are often fighting. But when with a client comes to me with some creative, I generally, one of the two sides of the brain is going to win. And generally, because it is commercial production, it's the right side. So I'm going to look at it and I'm going to make suggestions oftentimes to save them money, because at the end of the day, without the money, we're not doing the job. And I want it to be successful. So
here, I like to try to stop these things and break it into like bites that people can take away. Cause there's going to be people watching this that are, in-house marketing staff. There may be some people that are agency side. There may be some people that are associations, work for like large professional associations, stuff like that. Let me ask this, just a yes or no question. Do you do any client direct stuff, or is everything agency only?
No, we do some client direct stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about this then. Because you do so much with the agency and you do some client direct, those are very different animals, right? Like you're being approached in different ways. What are some of the things that you would recommend to people that are client direct? Let's say they don't have an agency, they're coming to you, and they want to get involved in something that they can help to best communicate what their needs are, what their budget is, and how to work with somebody like you to get across the point. Like, what should they bring to the table? What things should they have prepared? How should they be coming to talk to you when they don't have somebody that's like an agency intermediary that's been doing this forever, right? It's just them. Maybe they don't know. Like,
right.
And you have all this experience. How do they help to coax that experience out of you to get the best shoot possible?
It's a great question. And I think that, first off, I want to say that it's tough to find people like yourself and me that do have that experience, because there's a lot of people out there that are production companies. And the difference is that I have worked with people who produce creative, who actually think about the audience, the delivery, the purpose, your vision, your messaging, who you are, what your marketing is, who you say you are, who you want your client. And I'm not a hired gun. We don't just show up and shoot. We can, but you're not going to get the most out of us. So there's first point I want to make is not every production company can do that. They don't know how to handhold or to help. They will do what you tell them to do, but they're not gonna. I'm not afraid to tell a client if I think what they want isn't going to achieve their goal based on what I understand their goal to be. And number one, I ask what their goal is. Okay, that's what. So, what is your goal? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to make people think? What are you trying to make people change, or how are you trying to change a view of something? I ask those questions, and that's free. That comes because you hired me. That's part of it. That's part of what I'm going to do. So if you're asking me what do they need to know, or well, number one, they need to try and find a production company that is going to help them more than just showing up, because otherwise what they're going to get is just someone who asks them, what do you want me to do? Now, the price point is going to generally play into that, most likely. I mean, if you got a guy that just says, oh yeah, let's show up on like, $600 a day and I'll shoot it for you. But that's all they're going to do. They're going to show up. And you know, the aesthetics are going to come into it as well. We really play into, you know, trying to make things look as cinematic as possible. So when they come, let's just put all that aside. Let's just assume they do come to someone like us. And the first thing I would say is that even among that there's still a spectrum of how people like to work. But I would say that they need to have a good idea of what they don't always have to know how they want to get there, but they need to know where they want to go. Be clear about where you want to go. What are you trying to achieve? Why are you using this tool to get to that goal? Why,
what is your end? Like, what do you want to finally do?
Yeah. What do you, if you've decided to use this tool, first tell me why you decided the video is the best tool. Because I'm not afraid to tell somebody too. Are you sure this is the best tool for what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Yeah.
So if they tell me that this is why, okay, great. So we've established it's the right tool. Then what are you trying to get the people? What's your goal for the person that watches it, and who's watching it, and how are they watching it? Those are all very important factors into how we approach what we do. I think a lot of times some people try and think also about exactly what they're going to do. You know, oh, we're going to shoot it here. We're going to shoot the CEO sitting at his desk, and that's fine if that's not necessarily bad. But I think that they then skip thinking more about why. Why are we doing this? Because that's, come to someone like us and tell us what you're trying to do. That's what we do all the time, is we love to think about how to get that message. We know a ton of different tools. We know different ways, and we want to do something creative. We long for it.
So
like that's our thing.
You don't need to know technically what you need, but you absolutely have to know what your goals are, who you're going after, and why you're embarking upon this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are they trying to do?
And then we can all help guide you in the right direction to get the most out of that, most out of your budget, most out of your mission, most out of your message, to do all those things. But you got to know where you want to go with it first, and that this is the right medium to do that in. And then, yeah, everybody can help guide you, because more often than not, you have people that come and think that they have to shoot video just because they have to shoot video. And Trae said it on another one. It's like, man, if you're crushing it and your product's doing great and you've got good market share and you're doing all these things, okay. Like, is it just to keep up your brand awareness? Fine. That's a pretty different shoot than like introducing a product or a brand.
Exactly.
So
all of those have totally different approaches.
For sure. So
and,
I'm all about that. And it's nice to hear somebody else that, like, it is, chasing that next job. Sometimes for young producers or young production companies, you get tied up in just taking everything that comes your way. And it's like, oh, sure. Oh, you need something cool. What's your budget? Yeah, we'll come out and shoot it. And it just gets shot and it gets put together, and you're just putting more noise out into the world, and it's not meaningful content. And it's not really doing anything. Then people get a bad taste in their mouth for video production. Go, well, look, we spent $50,000 on this video campaign and got zero result. It's like, well, you just didn't approach it right from the beginning. So
yeah. And there's so many factors that play into it, because at the end of the day, we're all people, but it's, who is that person at the marketing table? Sometimes there's a newer person there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a box they're trying to check. Another thing that was handed to them that they need to get done. And so sometimes that's an uphill battle to fight when they're not vested in what they're doing and why they're doing it. And somebody's got to do the video, and sometimes you have to just deal with that. You can't take it personal.
For sure.
It's okay if they're not vested. That's their issue, but that it can affect, your morale and how you approach it, but it shouldn't. You should, I always try to do the best job, even if I am doing, I'm doing everything to pull them along into making it the best video. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on who you're working with.
All right. So it sounds like your first tip was know your end user, know your
audience,
final destination. Yeah. Do you have any other tips for people when they're utilizing video?
Yeah, I mean, communicate clearly to the production to the production company. Let us know from the get-go, because sometimes we start chasing something, or even look, if and I'm okay if someone's like, hey, we don't have a budget for you to do a whole lot of creative thinking on this.
Yeah.
We just, and I always hate it when they use the word just, like we just need this, because it always, they're coming out of the gate with that. Generally it's because they don't have a budget, or it's the way that
Well, it also
they kind of see the
diminishes
project.
your value. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I don't think there's a tip there too. Like sometimes that can be insulting, especially to us that do it professionally, and kind of, support our families by doing this, that, that ideology that it's just this, or we just
Yeah.
need to do that. We're
just
just
for
calling
social
it 'cause we
media.
gotta get it
Yeah.
done.
It's just a LinkedIn
I
video.
have pretty thick skin. I wouldn't say I'm offended by it, but it does tell me a lot about the approach that you're likely taking to it.
Or the value they put into what you're about to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have to understand.
Budget and value are two different things. Those are two different things.
Agreed. And they also have to understand that most of us that do this, we're passionate people. We are driven by the idea of story. We are driven by the idea, like their passion for who they are will be contagious to us, and it will be a catalyst to propel us into a place where we can really open up some doors that they didn't even think about, because that's what we do. That's why God graced us with this ability to tell stories, and the desire to do it. It's something that, yes, I went to school for it and all of that, but it's in me. I love it. I want to tell their story. I get excited about it. I get excited about, and so when a company comes to us with this idea, they should be excited about it to a certain degree, and communicate to us from the very beginning, anything that are like non-negotiables. We need to know that.
Yeah.
Because what if I start giving you all the ideas, and you're like, okay, absolutely, we have to shoot at headquarters. Like, there's no way around it because of the people that we're shooting. We have to shoot at headquarters. Everyone's, already said that. It's, okay, well, if I know that, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to fight it because you've already said it. So at least I know the parameters that we're working within to be creative. And sometimes that's even a cooler challenge. Like, oh, okay, here's our challenge. We got to do it here. And
I actually really like that, John, because you're the first person that said that. Like, we've gotten a lot of, because we want people to walk away with tips, and so a lot of times we've gotten show examples, which is great. You don't know what you want, I don't know what you want. I kind of know who you are, and I see what you're getting after, and I understand. Show me some examples, but put me in a box a little bit. Like, tell me what I can't do, because that could be just as important as what I can do. Like, if there are certain things that are non-negotiable that we cannot do, it's good to know those up front. And if you don't find those out till you're a week out from shooting, you could be in some deep dookie.
Yeah. And a lot of times they don't think about telling you what, because anytime you're dealing with business, and it depends, like most of the direct business we have is more corporate. It's corporate offices, and we don't really have any like smaller, like single off, like mom and pop stores. We don't really do a lot of that.
Yeah,
but
we don't either.
A lot of corporate clients, and there's always you can't do this.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of off limits.
There's always, and so we need to know that right away. They usually are pretty good about deadlines and timelines. I mean, because they're used to that. They live and die by deadlines and timelines. So that's usually communicated pretty much up front. Also, just the other things that we, when we're dealing with businesses, direct business, if it's not directly the marketing person that we're working with, which generally is, but we don't always. Sometimes the marketing person gives us to another department, like training or someone else, and so they're not as familiar. Really understanding elements and starting to gather those before we start talking. When they know that they're going to be doing a video, oftentimes they have an idea. Let's just say they're doing a story, they want us to put together a video about this particular person, that blah, blah, and then we're into it, and then we start asking for things that it's kind of like, well, if you know you're going to do this, start getting those things, like the photos of them from the B-roll that you had from 2 years ago when they were doing such and such, like, then we're in this pickle at some point where we're waiting on them to find those elements. But if we know from the get-go that we're not going to have these elements, at least we know it. And we know from the get-go and then if we start building something, and we're building it around thinking that we are going to have, we're assuming, oh, clearly they probably have archives of when groundbreaking took place or when this took place.
No, you're going to buy photos of stock dudes with golden shovels digging ground.
And it sucks, right? And so you don't want that. But I would say, it's just little things that they don't. It's not because it's not a slam. It's just that's not what they do every day. They don't do that. So, it's if it's a tip, I would say if you know that there's going to be a video about a certain thing coming up, start early getting those elements. Start making those calls to the marketing department or the archives or finding those things and start gathering them. Because then even better, when we do our estimate, if you can show us those, we can take that into consideration and not, pad a budget because we're not sure what elements we're going to have. If we know that you have those, I'm going to be honest. Oh, look, they got all these things and this will only take 2 days in graphics or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, Trae, I want to ask you this question because you've actually, I think, had probably the most diverse experience out of all of us here because you've just been a shooter for people. You've been a director. You've been a producer. You've worked for agency, you've worked client direct, you've worked as an employee. If there are people that are, smaller companies out there, right? They're looking to produce some B2B content or stuff for social and they're trying to work directly with a freelancer. What does that approach look like? Like how different is that than coming to me or to John, someone who, we have top down kind of management. We've got people that can help to deploy and do this. And we can really spend a lot of time on the ideas and on really digging through. But let's say they don't have that and they come straight to a freelance videographer and go, hey, I need to shoot social. What does that conversation look like? How do they get the most out of that?
I mean, my experience has been like in that situation, they always get frustrated.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, especially, I mean, because I've always been more of a producer that shoots. So like, that's a weird combination.
Yeah.
Cause I always crew out the shoots. And so all of a sudden they're like expecting, like one person, I'm like, no, we're going to have like multiple people and it's going to be a very orderly process. But I feel like even in our experience lately, like the people will be like, hey, we want to do this shoot. And they're coming off of a really bad experience where they hired one person to do something and that person did a bunch of roles, none of them well. They were kind of overtaxed. And then the deliverable that they got was not to the quality that they wanted. And so, yeah, I think that people should be very hesitant to reach out to a single shooter to do other roles than shoot.
I don't disagree with that, but I do feel like we would be remiss in saying that like there's never a place for that because I do feel that in some of these smaller organizations and smaller businesses, there is a place for that. And a lot of the guys that we work with that are shooters can absolutely manage that. There's a reason they don't own a production company. There's a reason that they're not in, business for themselves. There's a reason that they're just shooting, but I think there's a different way that you need to communicate with them. And I guess the point that I'm driving here is that if you're
a business owner, you hire someone like that, you just have to be willing to assume the role of producer because it's going to be
your budget gets reallocated into your time is what happens. I think that's what I'm going for at the end of the day. It's like you can either find the budget to ensure, and this goes back to my value versus budget argument, right? Those are not the same thing. The value that you get for a certain budget is very different based on a single shooter. The value that you get for what you pay this guy for a day rate versus the value that you get to hire a production company that really knows what they're doing. So those are the trade-offs and that you have to do. And you have to do so much more work and be so much more prepared and be willing to really be a lot more invested in the actual nuts and bolts of the production if you hire somebody like that than if you go a little bit higher. And so that's people. I don't think people understand that. I don't think they get that because it again goes back to that it's just social media. It's just whatever. It's just this. Cool. Those are all still important things. Those are all still brand face. It's like your face to the world things. There's no just about that. It has to be good. So either you have to take on 100% ownership of that and know exactly what the creative is going to look like, exactly what gear you need, exactly how to do it, or you got to get somebody that can help you do that stuff. And that's where the value comes in.
If that's a message to a business owner that is considering, hey, I need some video and I know this guy, he shoots all the time. That's what he does. And they're considering calling that person. just from what I grasped from what you guys were just saying, I think people would think that, and it's really out of ignorance. And I'm not calling them. It's just that just saying like they don't get it. They don't get what goes into it. If you're gonna, my advice to someone that's even considering doing that, which is fine. I'm not gonna say it's wrong. I'm gonna say just know what you're gonna get. If you're going to go directly to this guy who has who shoots really great, but he's not a producer, he's not really he can direct, but is that you need to keep it super simple,
Yeah.
because if you overcomplicate it, it's going to fail. You're not going to get the most out of that person because they're going to be pulled in too many directions, and I couldn't even probably begin to explain to them what it goes into making a production good, because it's taken me 20 years to develop that.
That's right.
But here's the thing. It's like, if you're like, oh, I really need to get out. We're missing out on all this ads on social media. I just need anything. Okay, fine. Then it really needs to be you talking directly to camera is about it, and some B-roll of your place, and just make sure it's super clean and art direct it yourself. And what I mean by art directed is a lot of people don't even know what that means. Like that, you don't actually shoot your restaurant the way it looks. You really that's where an art director really comes into and helps just for the shoot itself. But, and for those that are listening that have a company and they're like, what is he talking about? Like, let's just say you have a restaurant and you walk in, it's probably, you probably have some pamphlets over here. You have some coupons over there. You
have some trash cans.
Yeah. You don't. Yeah. What we specialize in is showing the restaurant in an ideal way, not the way it actually looks.
Man.
And we will do that when we do a commercial, but we have to bring in help for that. We bring in somebody that's going to scout and look at it. And that's all they do. And they're really great at it. And maybe they'll put a tablecloth. You'll be like, oh, we don't normally have tablecloths. It's okay for the shoot, or they're going to put, colorful pillows that match your marketing and your brand colors over here. And we don't really have those every day. It's okay. We're making a world that exists for your commercial.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I always think it's like wrestlers, I love wrestling, but you have to the wrestlers have to turn their own selves up by like 140%, so it's like John Cena is John Cena, but when he's a wrestler, he's like extra. And that's what you have to do in your restaurant. You have to make it your restaurant, but the best version, the most intense version of what your restaurant would be. And people will be like, oh, okay, great. Like I can connect with that.
So
just keep it simple.
Body slam your restaurant is what you're saying.
If you're not gonna do that, if you're someone who's just like, well, I just don't have the money for that. I just don't. That's cool. I get it. Believe me, I get that. Then don't try to do too much. Don't try to do too much. Like keep it simple. And if you do some B-roll, keep those simple. Keep them tight. Keep them, to the core. And even hire someone like us for a day or a consultant. I would come in and I could just give you some tips. I'm always willing to do that. But I think that what it would be important would be for you to just go, what images represent me best that could just be almost like still life images.
Also, I like that I don't think enough people realize that. And I am a huge advocate for that. Anytime I talk to somebody that either doesn't have the budget or is not ready to jump in yet, that we are typically all very willing to just talk to you and give you some advice and give you some experience because one, we all love doing it and it's fun and we enjoy talking about it and we love to hear ourselves talk and we like to riff on the stuff. But two, you could turn into a client down the road. So if we can help you get a little bit of success, chances are when you get that, you're going to come back to us and when you've got a little more budget and do it. So don't be afraid sometimes to reach out and just say, hey, look, this is kind of what we're trying to do. This is what we're thinking. This is the range of budget that we're in. It may not be a great fit for you, but can you talk to me a little bit about what we can do? Man, I love those phone calls.
Yeah,
for me, that's like the favorite part of my day. So
I'll have that call anytime. I'll talk to somebody and I'll at least tell them things to think about, like if they have an idea or if they don't have an idea, then I will give them at least a couple of questions, to think about what they're doing. I don't think a good reason to do it is because you're like, oh, well, we just need to be out there. We don't have enough. I mean, true, probably you do, but you have to think about what you're putting out there because it could be just as detrimental as it can be advantageous.
Great. So let's get into this because before we run super long, because this has been a hot topic. Let's talk about AI video, John, because there's all these ridiculous
Oh, yeah, Ben and I were just talking about that.
clickbait headlines about the end of video production because of all this stuff. And it's so funny because I'm hoping that like the average consumer or average client doesn't, that reads that and realizes how ridiculous it sounds and looks. But what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on it? Like, what is your use case? Because I will tell you that there are some use cases for me. But what do you feel about this giant advent of AI in video production?
Yeah, I somehow knew we would talk about this at some point. But
you can't not, man.
So, I mean, everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so my thoughts, well, first off, yes, we do use it, and it can be that the tools are helpful, especially, like 11 Labs and using, and what they can do with audio. And
that's what we just had a producer from LA or an editor from LA that was on a Netflix thing. This whole 11 Labs story, you should go back and watch it if you haven't heard it. Like Netflix shut them down. They like built an entire scene of dialogue, and Netflix was like, absolutely not. We're not doing it. Crazy.
Well, for what we do, and see, a lot of what we do too is, so our bread and butter is agency stuff, but that's not all we do. We do a lot of gala style videos that are documentaries, like documentary galas for some large nonprofits and for other businesses. But anyway, a lot of times those are really run by a lot of interviews, and people don't always say things the way you want them to. But so AI has really helped us to really smooth out stories where we're not making someone re-say something, but people are nervous that haven't been on camera, and so they flub it, they mess it up, and we're able to, learn their voice and cut the B-roll and say it the right way for them. And you can't tell. That's a huge jump,
awesome.
like for us, like people don't realize like how much that saves, how much time that saves us, how much headache that saves us. So there's definitely some.
Well, and that's interesting because that saves a lot of time in post, but it also saves a lot of time in production because I feel like one of the hardest things is like sitting with the client and being like, hey, I know I just asked you this question, but can I ask you again?
You hear it won't cut. You can hear it. It's like, and they're like, oh, why their syntax was so weird on that. Why did they do that? Or whatever. And you only have so long, especially if it's a corporate thing, you get some of these people for 15 minutes.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And they got to go. And so, if you know there's going to be B-roll, it certainly does. And the other thing is it's saving them money. We're paying a subscription for that. And we're not having to call them and try and get, an ADR set up or having to go back and shoot somebody else again. And that's money that they're saving. In that instance, it's a good thing. Now, when you look at what you're seeing with the complete AI ads and stuff, I mean, obviously they have progressed tremendously from when they first started showing them, where we were just laughing at what it was. It was ridiculous. People looked all weird and doing all this stuff. And it is a lot better. Is it going to take stuff from us, if that's the question on the table? I think it will to a certain extent. I mean, there certainly are the people that just want to get out there. I think the novelty of what it is right now will die down. I think a lot of people are just wanting to see it because it is AI. Oh, look at this AI ad. That in and of itself, that an AI did the ad or whatever is novelty, but that novelty is gonna die off eventually. I mean, those of us that tell story and we're gonna use that tool. I'm not 100% sure how much it's gonna alter. Hopefully, we're able to figure out how to use it to enhance what we already do.
That's it. It's got to just be a tool, man. Yeah.
And I think it will. I mean, I think that yes, there are some people that their marketing department are going to utilize that, and they're going to do that whole thing internally. But that happened a long time ago. I mean, that and it's not with AI, but that was the big turn that happened for me. Basically, why that production company shut down that I worked for 10 years, and I'd worked my way up at that place. Came in at 20 years old. 10 years later, at 30 years old, I was off to start my own production company. But that place collapsed because everything had changed. Everything, first it was digital, when everything went digital, and when everything went HD, first it was HD, then everything went digital, then there was no more tapes, then that was all, all that kind of stuff. That shows how old I am, but it was a big deal. The drop in cost of things, the drop of an editing machine, the drop of graphics, the camera costs coming down.
Did you guys have like a flame? Like a flame,
plant, smoke, all that stuff. We have,
and then all of a sudden After Effects just went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything gone.
All those that was one of the $7.50 an hour things. We had this amazing artist named Lei Chen. She was amazing. People would pay $7.50 an hour to work with her, and she was doing things that I could do on my laptop now
Your
with
phone, dude. You
yeah,
can do it on your phone now.
I don't have the skill still to this day to do a lot of that, but I mean, you could do it so much easier. So when all that happened, in this city anyway, in Houston, the idea of having 30 some odd employees and overhead and a studio and suites was a dinosaur.
It's a dinosaur now. Yeah. I mean, it is everywhere. But
it just went so quick.
I think the biggest, I mean, my like takeaway from this conversation today is value. I feel like this all comes down to value again. And it's like, what do you value as an organization? What do you value as a client? And then the value that a very well run production can provide you far exceeds anything that you could do otherwise. And that finding that value, it's like the AI stuff, like what's the value in that? The value is that you did it super fast. It didn't cost you much money. Well, that's where it ends, because it just looks like everything else that's out there, whatever else. It's like you can have this artisan crafted loaf of sourdough bread that somebody put all this time into, or you can go buy a generated piece of white bread off the shelf. Like, one of those is going to make your tummy hurt and one's not. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like, where's the value in what we're doing here? And to me right now, the like fully generative content does not hold a lot of value to me. The fact that you can get more volume out of it and then you have to put less effort into it, to me, does not equate value. To me, that just equates laziness and noise, and there's more of it being put out there. And while we did stress that you should keep things simple, keeping them simple doesn't mean just putting junk out into the world. Still take the time to do it, but be authentic to yourself, be authentic to your brand, be authentic to your mission. And AI to me does not breed authenticity. And I like the tools. I'm going to tell you, I use it all the time for scripting, for like putting stuff together. I love it. But man, I would never rely on it as my like sole source of doing things. And I hope we don't get to that world, where it is, because it's going to be a pretty sad place, guys.
I think that novelty, like I said, is going to wear off eventually.
Yeah, but people said that about the internet, John, and it didn't happen, man. So I'm scared.
Well, I'm not saying don't get me wrong. I'm saying that where people are attracted to it simply because it is AI is going to be gone
for sure.
I think that I don't. It just won't be as like cool that you're using AI. Like, okay, everyone's using AI, so what's next? But but what I do think is I won't discount that. I think there are still artists out there. There are artists that could use AI to create something that is stunning, that is thought provoking. I'm not going to discount that, because I have seen already some people that are just so artistic that they're able to use AI in this way to create a story that does evoke emotion, it does evoke a response. I think those are far and few, but there are people that I think will be able to use it. I think the big question is, if those are out there, how will it change what we do, in the fact that, will we have to get even smaller? There's still going to be a need for what we do. I just think that there is going to be the ability for a single person who's highly artistic and very visionary that can use AI in a way that will be moving and is artistic and thought provoking.
Yeah, John, have you met Trae? Right here below you. This is Trae. He's our newest. All right. An amalgamation.
All right. So it's 12:45. We went long. John, thank
awesome.
you.
What a great conversation
for your time.
John.
I can talk all day. Call me up.
Yeah. This is
all
awesome.
Right. We'll all meet up later and have the offline version. But it was a real pleasure to have you hang out with us for 45 minutes.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Have me back.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
All right. Well, you guys ready?